Basically, the whole theory around The Crow is that love transcends death.
The comic book is an underground comic book. It's not Spider-Man or Superman, you know, it's not something for mass consumption. And it has a very hard edge to it.
Well, The Crow brings you into a world unlike you've ever experienced before, and that's what a movie should do, especially in the area of fantasy films.
So slide back down and close your eyes. See the world you must be told.
I think you try and keep the integrity of what the comic was trying to say, and the vision of the comic, and you push it a bit further. You know, for a physical standpoint, what may have worked in the comic frame may not work as a piece of action in the film.
I hope the expressionist graphic thing really comes through. I think that as a genre, comic books hardly been explored in film yet. I think most of the films that have taken comic book as a start point have really not grabbed onto the essence of what comic books are about and what that market is interested in, what that audience is interested in.
I think that the film is quite faithful to the comic book. I hope that it is, in terms of preserving that hard edge and a certain style that the comic book certainly has. But we had the responsibility to fill in some gaps that aren't necessarily there in the comic book because they're different mediums. You know, you don't have to tell a cohesive narrative story. In a comic book, you can do a lot with images and leave a lot up to the imagination of the reader.
And he gradually learns along with the audience why he's come back, what his mission is. In the comic book, right from page one, he knows exactly what he's there for. When I drew the book, I drew it in storyboards, and I always intended it to be in black and white, with the flashback sequences in Technicolor. And Alex is pretty much doing exactly that. He's using filters and special optical effects to pretty much wash out all of the color to keep it a really bleak film. And then the flashbacks are going to be in this bright Technicolor, vibrant reds and yellows.
Right from the first meeting I had with Alex, we discussed removing greens and blues and really controlling the palette completely. So the rain and the steam help that a lot because they just bleach out whatever color's there. But that's definitely been a very important part. We've censored across the board any cold colors, any blues, greens, or anything like that, and really tried to create a monochromatic palette with red. So in terms of color, the red is kind of the revenge color. Whenever we get into the bad guys, we're trying to introduce elements of red.
I would have deeply loved to shoot the whole film in black and white, but personally I love black and white. I think it's wonderful. It would have been great to do that and show perhaps just the flashbacks, which are a part of Eric's real life, his life when he was alive, show those in color as contrast, you know. But unfortunately, due to the realities, the very shitty realities of the film world, we weren't given the opportunity to do that.
Eric the Crow is an everyman and was intended to be so. Someone who is not remarkable in their life, but is remarkable once given the chance to return from the dead and to make amends, to avenge the murder of himself and his fiancée, Shelley.
You're dealing with a supernatural situation, which is a man who has come back from the dead. And I think the thing that I enjoy most about this film is simply the questions that raises for me as an actor playing the part, and for the audience who's going to see the film. If you died, and a year had passed since the time that you had died, and during that year you have to assume that the people that you loved and the people who were in your life and loved you would have had a year now to grieve and come to some kind of terms with having lost you. And now suddenly you are given the chance to come back for 2 days. The world would be a very different place through your eyes from the point of view of having been dead for a year and knowing that you only had 2 days now to be alive, in a sense, again. And there would be some fascinating questions that would confront you, like, wouldn't you want to tell somebody? But at the same time, wouldn't you feel a certain responsibility not to trammel in the lives of the people who have had a year now, like I said, to deal with that loss? And you would see the world through these very different eyes, these eyes that are coming from a point of view and a perspective that no one really has.